Namaste everyone. Welcome to today's Yes Talk titled Self-Esteem in Small Children. Our guest speaker today is Miss Bindiya Arora.
Yeah.
She's an academic coordinator at Cambridge School, New Friends Colony. She has been teaching and mentoring students for the last 25 years. Starting out as a primary teacher, her current role involves formulating curriculum and overseeing teacher training at the primary school level for all Cambridge school branches in New Delhi. Besides formal education, Bindia is deeply interested in spirituality, which has influenced her work regarding self-esteem in children. Welcome, Bindia ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to an interesting session with you.
Good evening, everybody. Forget whatever was said about me. The only thing I want you to remember is that, this is a topic which is I'm very passionate about. It's very close to my heart. And whatever I talk today, whatever I say today is going to be purely out of my own personal experiences that I've had with children. So I hope everybody has, some takeaways to take from this talk today. So I'm not here basically to tell you that I know more than all of you. No, I'm here today just to share my own experiences and understanding of children, about how they behave, why they behave in a certain way. And when I talk about children, I'm basically, talking about the age group from about 3 years. That's when they come to school, and till about their 6 or 7 years ago, which are the foundational years in a child's life. These are the years which we tend to take very casually, thinking that okay, they're just kids, it doesn't matter, not realizing that this is the age that whatever is said to them, whatever is told to them, how they are treated is going to have a very, very huge impact on them when they grow up. So I'm personally very, very passionate about this age group. I'm very passionate about the fact that, we actually have the opportunity of building their self-esteem. And the sooner we start, the better it is. So let's treat this talk today as a platform to remind ourselves, about the very, very important role that we play in a child's life. So coming to my topic today, which is self-esteem, what does self-esteem mean? In the simplest of terms, it means how we feel about ourselves. And how we feel about ourselves is how we were made to feel when we were little kids, how we were treated when we were little kids. So we grow up with these ideas about ourselves, and that is what either builds our self-esteem or damages it completely. Even as adults, we would all like to live our lives, with a reasonably good amount of self-esteem. I think we will all agree with this, but it has to definitely start when we are kids. So that is why I chose this topic, not really wanting to talk about self-esteem, but to focus on self-esteem in small children. So when we talk about small children, we cannot ignore the most important adults in their lives at that point, which would be, to start with, their parents, their grandparents, and in a couple of years, it would be their teachers. So these are the adults that surround a little child who has absolutely unsuspecting trust in them. And that trust should never be broken. Without realizing, our spiritual journey, begins the moment we become parents, the moment we become teachers. That's the day our spiritual journey actually begins, which sometimes, we realize, and sometimes, the awareness comes after many, many years. but it's never too late. It's never too late, because there are certain things, you might feel you could have done with your own kids a little better, but that's okay. If we couldn't do it with our kids, we could do it with somebody else's kid. We can pass it on. So today's topic, again, like I said, it's about taking our own roles very, very seriously when we are dealing with little kids. And when I talk about this topic today, I will basically be referring to the different situations that come in a child's life as they are growing. And what are the mistakes that we as adults make while dealing with those situations, which later we realize hampered the child's self-esteem in some way. They could be big ways, small ways, but it does have an effect. And those very things, if they're dealt with a little more awareness, mindfulness, will help in building the child's self-esteem, and the child will definitely grow up to be a confident, self-accepting human. And I think as adults, we would all like that for our kids. So I would like to, as being a teacher, let's start with the child's first day of school. What happens at home when the child is supposed to join a new school? And when I refer to parents, I'm not referring to all parents, all teachers, but these are things that we've all done at some point. Some have done it to a larger extent, some have done it to a lesser extent. But when I say parents, I'm just referring to the ones all things might not refer to you or might not be relatable, but yeah, there are common things that happen. So when a child has to begin school, the scene at home is that you start telling the child that now the child's routine will change drastically. He or she will have to start sleeping early, because when he has to get to school on time, and will have to behave in a certain way, because otherwise the teachers might not love him as much. And also telling the child, that the child, now here we are talking to a 3-year-old child. We are telling the child that he has to behave in a certain way to be liked. We are telling the child that if he doesn't sleep on time, he's sleepy in the morning, people are going to laugh at him, the gates will be locked. We are telling a child, that if you cry in school, you will be mocked at. And we are also telling the child, and these are, I'm talking through real life experiences. I've been a teacher for the past more than 25 years, and I've dealt with this age group. So I've seen all this happening in front of my own eyes. And, sometimes we tell the child that, if you're irresponsible and if you start running around in school, probably you'll get lost in the school. Now, what a scary thing to tell a child that a child can actually get lost in school. Or if you cry, if you trouble your teacher, the guards are going to lock up the gates and you will not be allowed to go home. Now just try to get into a 3-year-old child's shoes. And then you imagine for 2 minutes the kind of feelings that a child must be feeling that time. How scary. So what have we done here? Instead of exciting the child about a new milestone, we have already made him anxious. He or she, that child is already scared, not knowing what to expect now. Whether it's a punishment that the child is being given by sending to school, or it's going to be a nice, fun experience, the child is totally confused now. So what I tell my parents is, I fix special days when the parents can actually bring the children to school. They show them around. They introduce them. We tell the teachers to introduce themselves to the kids. The parents should be exciting the children about a new school, about new toys, about meeting new friends, about doing a lot more things that the child probably cannot do at home. So these are very tiny things. And as a parent, probably I will defend myself saying that, I'm trying to discipline the child. I'm teaching the child to wake up on time, to reach school on time. That's not the child's responsibility. That's your responsibility. You have to create an environment in the house where the child is able to sleep at night, sleep early, wake up early. It's not the child's problem. Now, the same situation, if we take from the teacher's point of view. Now, the teacher is going to get a whole lot of new kids. So what should the teacher's role be here? The teacher, first of all, should be very mindful of the fact that she will be getting about 40 kids from different backgrounds, from different families, from, she needs to be neutral. If she starts comparing children on the basis of their behavior, on the basis of their confidence levels, on the basis that, the child is not crying in school, is being very unfair to the others. I think it's the most terrible thing to do. Telling one child not to cry and be a good child is not the right message we are giving. If a child is crying, does he really become a bad child? Or a child who is not crying, does that child become better than the one who's crying? What message are we trying to give? Are we trying to console the child? No. We are just, making the child feel bad about expressing his feelings and emotions. What a terrible thing to do. And also, it's a very common thing to tell boys that, you are a boy, you should not be crying. You need to be strong. Why? Why can't a boy be crying? Why can't a boy cry? And why can't a girl be the one who's strong? So these are things which we don't do with any bad intentions. These are words which we utter without thinking. But they are big messages we are sending to a small child. Why should the boy feel guilty for crying? They are kids. So when the children come to school, that space needs to be a safe, comfortable space for every child, where the child is allowed to express his or her feelings without being judged. That is the most important thing a teacher can do to make this experience a wonderful experience for the child. But sometimes, without realizing, we do things and then we start blaming the child, that the child is not settling in school. It's been 15 days and the child is still crying and coming to school. Why is he doing that? Why? So this why we need to think about. And whatever wrong that is happening in a child's life at that age, the parents and the teachers, like I said, the most important adults in the child's life are to be blamed. So we need to take onus. And also, at home, in school, a very common thing to tell boys are that, oh, you are playing with a doll. Boys are not supposed to play with dolls. You're supposed to play with cars. You're supposed to be running around. Why are you sitting in one place? Why are you not going out and playing or cycling? In fact, when I was a teacher long ago, teaching nursery, I had this boy in my class who would love to play with dolls, who would, love to dress himself in dupattas and skirts and everything, and he would hang around more with girls. So I was observing this child, and then one day I just called him. I asked him, I said, why do you do this? What interests you? Why do you like dressing up like that? In a very casual, like a kind of a one-on-one conversation with the child. So the child told me, ma'am, I do this because boys fight. I'm scared. I feel safer when I'm around girls because they don't hit me. At that time, imagine if I had told him, if we had all laughed at him, if we had told him that, no, this is not normal behavior. You need to be strong. It's okay if they're hitting you. You're not supposed to be scared. Imagine how that boy would have grown up. He would have grown up feeling terrible about himself. He would be ashamed of himself, that, oh my God, I used to play with dolls. But it's okay. You have to tell every child that it's okay. They need to do what makes them happy. And now that boy is in class 12th. In fact, he came to school to visit me also. And he looks like a proper, very smart young man. Because we handled the situation carefully when he was small and when he needed us. So children at any point of their lives should never be made to feel that they're not worthy, that, they are not important, or they need to be ashamed of themselves for anything. This is the most terrible thing that we can do to a child. Then their life at home. This was school, now life at home. What do we do as parents? If we have one child, we try to overfunction for that child. We tend to give things more than what he needs or desires at that point of time. We try to do more. And what message are we giving the child? A sense of entitlement. We are not setting any boundaries because, again, the parents will defend themselves saying that we have just one child. Who are we supposed to spend on? You spend, you give, but do it in a way that the child doesn't hamper his growth. Because when the child goes into the real world, do you think he's going to get that kind of an attention? Do you think the world is going to shower that child with gifts? No. What will happen to the child? It's going to shatter him completely. It's going to shatter the self-esteem because the parents have kind of raised his expectations so much that now there is no way he's going to cater for less. He's not going to accept anything that is less than what he was promised or given when he was a child. And again, if there are 2 children, 3 children in the house, then what do we do as parents? We start comparing them. We start comparing them in front of our family members, in front of outsiders. One child could be an extrovert. That child might get more attention than the other one. But as parents, what is our role? Our role is to make the other child feel that it's okay if he's shy. Shyness if a child is an introvert, if a child is shy, we should not make the child feel guilty about it. Don't try to change the child. Shyness is not a negative quality. It's okay to be shy. So as parents, as teachers, we have these very, very important roles that we need to play, which is actually going to hamper or build a child's self-esteem to a very large extent. Then again, right and wrong behavior. What is right for one should be right for the other also. These rules, these right and wrongs should not be different for a child or for the adults at home. It should be the same. And if there is a factor which is connected, if it's an age factor or a security issue or something, then it has to be explained to the child why something is wrong for the child and why it is right for us, or why it is right for us or wrong for them. They have to understand. You have to explain things to them, not force things on them. We tend to take advantage of our size, of our power. We keep telling them that, we are the ones who are the stronger party. And the kids just have to listen to us. And they just have to believe that whatever we are telling them is for their betterment. But why should a child have to do that? Why can't the child question the parent? We don't let the children ask questions. And sometimes even as adults, sometimes when we go out, we are attending workshops and we are asked to ask questions. Most of us don't know what to ask. Because as children, we are mostly taught to listen. We tell them that they should listen to their teachers in class. We tell them that they have to listen to the parents at home. We are just teaching them how to listen. Who is teaching them how to ask questions? Appreciation and praise. Appreciation needs to be unconditional. Praise needs to be conditioned. Whatever little efforts you're seeing the child make needs to be appreciated. Because when they're small kids, most of the things they do to please us. They want their parents to be happy. They want their teachers to be happy. Why? Because they want to feel loved. Appreciation should be given absolutely unconditionally for every small step that the child is taking. But praise needs to be limited. Because if the child is lacking in something, the child knows that. He knows it even before the teacher knows it, or even before the parent knows it. He knows when he's not good at something. So let's not deceive him. Because when he see a children, like even in school, these kids, they bring these drawings for us. They want to show us their drawings. Appreciate them. Tell them they've done a good job. But don't tell them it's the best drawing that you've ever seen, because it's not. And the child also knows that, they are smarter than what we think they are. They are much smarter. They know it's not the best drawing. So let's not tell them that. Tell them they've done a very good job. You love the drawing. You're going to put it up on the wall. You're going to show it to friends. Tell them all of that. But don't tell them it's the best one that they've made. Where are we leaving the scope for improvement? So as parents and teachers, we need to put the children on a path where they can reflect, where there is scope of improvement, where they can compare their own work, where they can see where they've reached. Because again, when we throw them into the real world, people are not going to praise them. Even appreciation is going to become very limited. So then we've just left him to deal with the situations without teaching him anything. Because again, we've left the child with a very bloated impression of himself or herself. But the world is not going to treat the children like that. They will see that there are people better than them, much better. So do you think the child will accept this then? No. They will get into depression. They will self-doubt. They will not want to try. Let them fail. Appreciate them, but tell them, okay, there will be moments in your life where you will fall. Hold them. Walk with them. Walk behind them. But don't walk in front of them. Don't block their view. Let them see their own path. Let them fall. They should know you're walking with them to hold them. Let them fall 100 times. There's no time limit for trying, as long as they're trying. Let's not block their way. Because the world will soon show them a mirror where they might not like to see themselves. And we really don't want that to happen to our kids. It's a horrible thing to do to them. Then another thing that we do with kids when they're small, we try to curb their independence. We don't even let them do simple chores in the house, age appropriate, like putting away their shoes, making the bed, putting away their plates and glasses, polishing their shoes. Half because we don't want to deal with the mess that they might create. We don't even let them feed themselves, that they'll drop food, because we don't want to do that extra work. And half, we don't let them do because this is a way of showing our love and care for them. See, I'm doing so much for you because I love you so much. Are we really loving them like this? Is this the only way to show your love? In fact, you're hampering their growth. You are not letting them learn the basic life skills that they need to learn at this age. And then you want to keep them in your laps. And then suddenly one day you decide that now they've become too heavy and you are tired. And suddenly you tell them to fly. When did you teach them to crawl? When did you teach them to walk? And now suddenly, just because you are tired, you want them to fly. And then you start blaming the child. There's so many parents who will tell their kids, you've become so big and you can't even put this glass back in the kitchen. But the child remembers the day when he broke that glass and how he was treated after that. Do you think he wants to do that again? No. Because he knows that either he does it perfectly or he doesn't do it at all. Is this a nice thing to do to the child? It isn't. Because again, we are not teaching him the life skills that he needs to learn, because we cannot be with the child forever. And then what will happen? There will be a blame game. One party is the parents are going to blame the children for not learning. The children are going to blame the parents for not teaching. And who wins? No, nobody wins. Both parties lose. So why do such things? It's okay, tell them things will fall, things will break, but they must keep doing what they have to do. And and the children are very smart. They tell you, Mama, when you break a glass, nobody screams at you. Then why are people screaming at us when we break things? And this is something we do. It's a very common thing that happens in all homes. Now, my next poor situation for the kids is when we don't let them choose what they want to wear when they're young. We want to decide what they should wear at parties. We want to decide what they should wear when people are coming over. And what is the reason that we give them? That they don't know enough. They don't know what will look good with what. They will not look smart. This is what we tell them. That if you don't dress up the way we want you to dress up, you're not going to look smart. People will not compliment you. Then what happens to the child? The child can never make decisions. The child will always look at you for approval. Even for the slightest of things, he will look at you for approval. Till you nod your head, the child will not have the confidence to take that step. Again, it's a very ridiculous thing to do to the child. In fact, we should try and build up the child's aesthetic sense right from the beginning. Be there, give suggestions, but then let the child be the boss. Who will laugh? Nobody is going to laugh. And what is this concept of getting compliments or looking smart? What is the definition of looking smart? So these are things, if we are mindful about when we are dealing with small children, it goes a long way with the kids. We want them to be decision makers. There'll be when they grow up, there'll be 100 situations where they will have to make decisions. Whose approval will they want that time? Who will be with them then? Nobody. No one is going to be with them then. So let's teach them when they're young and not wait for that perfect moment where they will suddenly know what they're supposed to wear. Let's not wait, because that day will never arrive. We will make sure that it doesn't arrive. Another thing to be very mindful about is how we treat their friends when they come home. Never, ever ridicule your child in front of their friends. Never compare, and never be mean to their friends when they come home. Because see what you're doing to the child. The child is absolutely embarrassed of his house, of his parents, of himself, and probably he will never want another friend coming in. And when these children, and then see, it's so awkward for a child, because a child will be going to other children's homes, and children at this age can be very mean. They may say that you keep coming to our house, but we are never allowed to come to yours because your mom or your dad doesn't like it. So such children, when they grow up, they are very socially awkward. This is their home too. They have equal rights in the house. If we can call our friends, why can't they? And you know what I'm telling you today, some of it I've done with my own kids. This is something I've learned. So since now I couldn't really, now it's too late. I have grown up boys. I can't do much now, but at least I can do it with other kids, or at least guide other parents that these are not nice things to do to a child. This is their home too. They have equal rights in the house. They have the freedom to call whatever, whoever they want to. So why not? Another instance where we might hurt the child's sentiments is when we leave them at friends' places or relatives' places. Sometimes in a nuclear setup, parents have to travel, and there is no support system at home. So sometimes it may happen that the child needs to be left in a friend's house or a relative's house or grandparents' house. As a parent, you're thinking in the best interest of the child. Of course, you can't leave a child alone at home. But what is the child thinking at that moment? That the child is being dumped in somebody's house without his permission, without his approval, just because the parents have to go out. He feels cheated. The child feels tricked. He learns to distrust people. And we also make the child insecure. He doesn't know whether the parents are going to come back to pick him up. They might just leave him there forever and ever. How does the child know that? So what is our role here? Leaving the child at a friend's place or a relative's place is not a bad thing to do. But there has to be a conversation with the child first. The child has to be told that, it's important because he cannot be left alone at home. It's not safe. And give the child options. Let the child choose. Let the child say where he wants to go. Have a conversation and also tell the child, the exact day when he'll be picked up. And the child also needs to know that he'll be missed, that you're going to miss him. Because for a child, it's a very mean thing for the parents to do, that they're going on a holiday. They don't understand work at that age. And the child is just dumped somewhere. So tell them that they'll be missed and it's not something that they're doing happily, but there's no other option. So at least the child feels respected and cared for. Then threatening children. The easiest thing as parents that we do when we don't have time and we want the kids to do whatever you want them to do is to threaten them with injections, with insects, and we're telling them, okay, if they don't listen, they're going to go away, leave them and go away. In due time, every child is going to understand that, injections are not a bad thing. They're given for a reason. And insects don't go around biting people without any rhyme or reason. And parents generally do not abandon their kids and go anywhere. So why deceive them? Why give them these wrong messages? Why scare them? Because see, these things a child will in due time understand. But what the child may not be able to do is to forgive you for those fearful moments that the child had to live because of your threats. And we don't know how the child is going to react even years later. And sometimes as parents, we don't even know what's going on in their minds, even when they're grown up adults. Just because of those few moments where you didn't have time, so you did this to your child. Another thing that we love to do with kids is take them on a guilt trip. we should not ignore their feelings of fear. Some children might be very scared of the dark. They might not want to sleep without their security blanket or their soft toys. If they express their anxieties to you, take them seriously. Address them very sensitively and in private. Don't, in front of 5 people, tell them ki you're a grown-up boy, even now you're scared of the dark. You should behave yourself. This is no way to behave. You're a grown-up boy. Why? And don't try to pull away things that are giving the child a sense of security. His soft toys, his security blanket will one day go away. But why pull them from a child just because you feel it's not nice or right? You are making the child even more insecure by doing this. And common childhood habits like thumb sucking, bed wetting, talking to themselves, creating imaginary friends, talking to soft toys should not be laughed at. Don't make the child feel that he's crazy and normal kids don't behave like that. This is absolutely normal. These are childhood phases to be enjoyed with the child. Why make him feel ashamed of his behavior? There's nothing wrong if the child is talking to himself or is talking to imaginary friends. Children are very imaginative at this age. They do a lot of role play. They imitate their teachers. They teach imaginary students. They talk to imaginary kids. They behave like parents. So these are moments to be enjoyed with the kids without making them feel that this is absolutely crazy. And don't ever, and as parents, we should never discuss this in public, especially in front of the child, that my child does all this. And even if you're sharing it with somebody, do it in a positive way. Don't let the child feel that he's not normal. Because these things eventually will go away. They're not going to last very long. But let them go away, phase out on their own. And another thing, like suppose, a child is not listening and he falls. Then telling the child, instead of, feeling bad for the child or telling him that, okay, you're feeling bad that he's hurt, you start telling the child, see, you were not listening to me. Now you've got hurt. Now we will have to leave all our work, take you to the doctor. We will have to spend on medicines. It's such a nuisance. You don't listen. You don't do that. You don't do this. Again, imagine a child is already in pain. What are you telling the child? That his pain is less important? And what the parents have to do, they're rushing to the hospital, they're leaving all their work, taking out time is more important. Is this actually what we want the child to feel? Okay, the child fell down. He needs to be taken to the doctor. So just take him to the doctor. Rest of the problems are not his to deal with. These are issues to be dealt with by the parents. What the doctor fees says and how much the medicines are going to cost is not the child's problem at all. At that moment, the child only needs to hear that you care, that you're feeling bad, that he has to suffer this pain, and he'll feel better soon. So let them not feel guilty about things that are not their fault and also not their business. Certain things as adults, what we can't handle, we love to throw it on the kids, which is not a nice thing to do at all. We need to learn to cope with our own problems. We need to manage our time better. That's not their problem. And let's not even make it their problem. So basically, the thing is, whatever the child grows up as will totally, like, again, I'm repeating myself, will totally depend on the way we treated him as a child, the way we dealt with everyday situations, the small ones and the big ones. And isn't it nice, if as parents and teachers can give society a child who can stand up for himself, who can stand up for his own beliefs, who has learned how to love, who can trust, who can accept. And it's all possible. These are not things that are difficult to do. We just have to be a little mindful, a little more aware, and understand the importance of our role that we play in their lives. What can be a more bigger spiritual journey than this journey? And if we were as adults to make a list of things that we learn while living this journey with the kids, the list is going to be endless. The children teach us actually how to love. The children teach us how to be patient. Children teach us how to forgive. You can go around scolding kids and 5 minutes later, they'll be hugging you. Isn't this something that we as adults find so difficult to do? And it absolutely comes very naturally to the kids. We learn to become accepting. So it's a long list of things. If we ever sit and we try to make a list, and this list is going to be endless. And where we sit and think that, we have taught our kids this, and this, it's actually the other way around. It's the kids that teach us so many things, which as adults are so difficult for us to do. In school, like sometimes the children get hurt and we have to call the parents to pick them up. I have with my own eyes seen parents coming to the school and yelling at the kid because they had to take half day from work. They had to come, and again, the same story. And we have also had kids, we've also had kids in school, if they've been hurt, if they're not feeling well, they literally beg the teachers, ma'am, please let us be in school. We don't call our parents. They will get angry. They're okay to sit in school and suffer than to go home. Isn't this sad? So like I said, let's be with them. Let's walk with them. Let's hold their hand, but let's not block their view. Let's not block their path. Let them fall. Tell them it's okay to fall. Tell them it's okay to fail, even if they fail 1,000,000 times. Someday they will run. Someday they will fly. And that's going to be when we can say, okay, we've done our job well. So that's all from my side. If there's any discussion, any questions somebody wants to ask.
Thank you, Bindiya ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, all your experience. You shared so many instances, so many scenarios where we all need to improve ourselves for sure. It will be very helpful to all of us. Thank you so much. Participants, we'll open for questions or whatever you want to share with us. Dr. Sangeeta, you have raised the hand. Please go ahead.
Hi, Bindiya.
Yeah, hi, Sangeeta.
Thanks for your presentation. I have two questions. One is, what is the socio-economic background of the children that attend your school?
We have a mixed lot. Actually, for us, it is compulsory to take 30% from the EWS category, which is the economically weaker sections, and the rest of it is our general category. So again, it becomes, a huger responsibility on us to make sure that, these children don't feel left out. In fact, I have a very nice example to share. You just reminded me. I had this child from the EWS background who would, who got into the habit of taking other children's pencils, pens, basically stealing things. Though we never used this term in front of the kids, but he used to do that. He got into the habit, and we found out because suddenly things started going missing. So since we have cameras and all in the class, we found out that this child has been doing it. So I called that child to my room. I asked him, I said, have you been taking, I didn't tell him that I'd seen him on camera, nothing. I just asked him, I said, have you been doing that? He confessed. He said, yes, ma'am, I have been taking pencils, erasers, but they're all lying in my house because I don't have them. And my parents can't buy it for me. So I told him, I said, if I buy them for you, will you return everybody's things back? Next morning, before I could reach my room, everything was back in place. He had returned everything. And I gave him a sticker. He was so happy with the sticker. And I bought him pencils. I said, you take these pencils because now these are yours. So we do have a mixed background. And so that is why, when we give them homework and all, also we try to make it a little neutral, something that every child will be able to do. So if you give them very research-based homework, because these things, we used to do earlier, and then we realized, most of the kids don't have computers at home. They don't have educated parents who can help them. So now we have a lot of remediation going on in our school. We have NGOs coming to school and teaching these kids English. Because we do have this 70-30 combination
Actually,
of kids.
My next question was going to be something different. I know Colony very, very well there. And sorry to say, but the main colony area is incredibly affluent. Again, it's a generalization, but it's my personal experience. The kids are probably the most ill-mannered, the most spoilt, the most entitled, and unbearable most of the time, honestly. And I know that those parents are so status-oriented that there is no way that they are going to change their attitudes and their mindsets because of the environment and whatever they live in, and it doesn't matter. So my question to you is, I understand about the children, and by the way, the other side of that is that I also know that children are whatever they are, they're lovely, but they can also be incredibly manipulative, and they know how to play their parents and their relatives and their grandparents, and they know this whole thing of reward and fulfillment and all of that. So how do you, not you personally, but how does one manage, especially the parents who play to the children and the children play back with them? Because that's a very common scenario.
That's what my presentation was all about, that we are the culprits. First, we do these things to the kids. So what we do in school is we keep having these parent orientations. The maximum we can do is we can talk to the parents. We can give these workshops to the parents, make them realize what damage they are creating here in a child's life. What are the things that the children are learning? See, the age group that I was catering to today was till about 7 years old, this presentation. But as they grow older, of course, they learn all the tricks from the parents. It's us who teach them all this. So then why blame them later? Because then they're unmanageable, because they'll come and tell you that this is what you did with us. So now you're getting it back. So we have a lot of parent orientations in our school. We call people from outside also. What else can one do? The parents are adults, and we expect them. If children don't listen, neither do adults.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, I know.
So they need to understand, they need to be aware that every small thing that they're doing right now is going to affect the child in a good or bad way. We have to be very mindful of what we are showing the child. See, if you don't say your sorries and please, if you don't know how to apologize, if you don't know how to accept your mistakes, do you know the child is ever going to learn to say sorry? If you keep showering the children with gifts because you feel that your money is only for them, do you think the child is ever going to accept less?
Bindiya, okay, so I just want to share this very quickly. I don't want to take over the session at all. I'm very respectful of that. But I did not grow up in India. I grew up in London, where discipline is very, very, it's important. And it's not a hardcore discipline, but it's a discipline.
Yeah.
And that, I feel, is really lacking in what I've seen in some of these professional or educated communities in India. And that's all. And it's not a comparison. It's just my kind of, because of what I've experienced and how I've grown up. We don't have help here. We don't have maids. We don't have staff. We have to do everything ourselves. We clean our own toilets. We do everything ourselves. So there's a much more of a sort of egalitarian mindset. So my thing is that when I see this, I'm like, well, how do you actually even teach or show parents or children or whatever when they're living in an environment which actually satisfies most of their, those needs? So
I get your point. We do a lot of things in our class. The children are supposed to clean up their own mess after eating. They are taught how to clean up the tables, to pick up litter, even if it's not theirs. We have these cleanliness drives in our school where the children do community service also. We teach them to serve. We teach them to say thank you to the cook who has cooked their midday meal in school. And there is a broom in every class. There is a mop in every class. And the children are encouraged. If somebody drops water, now you should see the way the children run for that mop. They all want to clean up. They all want to broom the room after they've eaten. We teach them how to pack up the toys, because if it is, and it should start at home, because they come to us when they're 3, but it has to simultaneously also happen in school. And school is the first place where they learn social interactions and also discipline. That's why we have timings. That's why we encourage the parents to send their children to school on time. And, we also send out notices to the children that if the children do not reach school on time, they'll be sent back home. Though most of it is the parents' fault. Sometimes. Most of the times, basically. But because school is the place where we teach them discipline. And also, social emotional learning happens in school. But of course, it also has to happen at home. If the parents are partying till 12 o'clock, the child is not going to sleep at 8 o'clock. If the parents are going to be on their mobiles 24/7, the children are not going to pick up a storybook and read. We keep requesting the parents, that take out time, read to them at bedtime, tell them bedtime stories, be with them when they sleep, you sleep with them. They should also see you doing the things that you want them to do. We cannot be doing something else. Like I said, rules have to be the same at home for everybody. But that doesn't happen. When the child comes to school, he's with us for about 6 to 7 hours. But rest of the time, he's at home. So all we do is we keep requesting the parents. We keep having these workshops for them. We keep trying to tell them that, it's still not too late. They can still mend their ways. Because eventually, they're the same parents who will come back to us after 6 years and say that they can't manage their own child. But whose fault is it? You didn't listen to us. So, everybody, when you're bringing up a child, like I said, all the important adults in the life of that child, they need to work together. Only then the child will learn what he needs to learn. Otherwise, he'll say, if you don't give me, the child tell us, if you don't give me a toffee, my parents are going to give me a bag full of toffees at home.
I just heard one thing which I read recently, which I thought was brilliant. We know the old proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. The new proverb is it takes a village to deconstruct and decondition a child as well.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If anyone else from the audience has a question, please put up in the chat box. I'll share that for you. Until then, Dr. Bislani, I request you to share your thoughts. I'm sure you would have a lot to say on this topic.
This talk indeed was an experience, and I wish more teachers and parents would see the recording. Because what Bindiya did was to bring in the distillate of the wisdom that she has accumulated over more than 25 years. And it was not presented in a random, haphazard manner. She had worked hard to sort of uh, build up a certain sequence and enumerate all the major things that she has observed. So it was not presented primarily as theory or philosophy, but the whole thing was full of concrete examples from everyday life, which any parent or teacher can actually easily relate to. So that was the beauty of this presentation. And we certainly would look forward to more talks of this type. Some of the things which I had in mind, in fact, came out in the discussion and were emphasized there, like the same rules should apply to the adults as to the children at home. This is something very important. It applies to the TV, to the phone, and to bedtime, and also to simple things like tea and coffee. Adults can have tea and children can't.
Children can't. Because
Yes.
you become dark if you drink tea.
So it applies to so many things, and we do it assuming that this is something which is very natural, and as adults we have a right to do certain things, and the child just has to wait till the child becomes an adult, but the child may not look at it that way. Another one important thing which once a children's writer told me was that we should read stories to children at bedtime, not only when the child can't read, but even after the child can read on her own. Even
Yes.
at that stage, for quite some time, we can continue with the bedtime storytelling,
Yes.
because or even not at bedtime, even otherwise,
Okay.
because storytelling also is something that builds up the child's self-esteem, makes
Yeah.
the child feel that I'm important enough for this adult parent to spend so much time telling me a story. So that also, in fact, can help build up the child's
And it's a
self-esteem.
very good bonding time that you spend with the child, you know, where there are no interruptions.
Exactly. So it's not that the child has to be told stories only till the child herself
No.
can't read. Just to go continue well beyond that.
Yeah.
And
True.
finally, I mean, since in this forum we try to link everything to spirituality, you did it so well, and you linked it to spirituality. And as you said, what can be a better spiritual, sort of better way of growing spiritually than through parenting and through dealing with children as teachers at that age, because there's so much that the children can not only teach us, but also uh, give us an opportunity to put spirituality into practice. So
Yes.
essentially, of course, I mean, we can learn a lot from children because the children are so pure at heart and so free from all negativities and hypocrisy. Basically, I mean, they come from a very pure space. So there's so much that we can learn from them, be it apologizing or be it forgiving, which are some of the most difficult things for adults to do. But apart from what they can teach us through their example, the children also give us an opportunity for spiritual practice, because
Yes.
spiritual practice basically is about giving what we have to those who need it. So for a teacher or a parent, the children are an opportunity which is available all the time. They didn't have to work really hard to get that opportunity. They have the knowledge, they have the capacity to love, they have the capacity to care, and these are all things that children need. So what a
Yes.
beautiful complementary situation. And when we do these things, instead of feeling that we are helping the child in spite of the child interrupting our work and so on, the way sometimes parents look at it, as you said, instead of looking at it as an interruption in the important things that we were doing.
Yeah.
One doesn't know how important they really are in the long run. But instead of looking at it that way, why don't we look at it as something through which children are helping us? We are not helping the children. The children are helping us.
us.
Yes, they're giving us an opportunity for growing spiritually.
True.
So finally, again, it's back to you for any closing thoughts that you might have.
So yes, it was a very good experience for me as well to be able to talk on this forum. I could also share my thoughts, and hopefully I'm just hoping that everybody goes back with at least a few takeaways. which we can throw out into this world and make kids the way we want them to be, which will help them grow, will teach them to stand up for themselves, to respect others, to love, to trust, to accept. So I think, again, I'll repeat myself in saying that we need to take our roles very seriously. So thank you so much for inviting me here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Look forward to having you again.
Sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much, ma'am. This is really very helpful to all the adults around. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with us. I thank the participants as well for being with us today. We can close today's session with a moment of peaceful silence.
Thank you.